Hello, everyone. My name is Randy Goers. I'm with the City of Tampa Planning Department, and we're going to go ahead and get started. I welcome you joining this webinar tonight and to find out what the Neighborhood Commercial District Planning Program is all about. I also want to acknowledge a couple of people have been very helpful in bringing about the Neighborhood Commercial District planning process here in Main Street. Joe Robinson, but Joe, I just want to acknowledge your help in moving this forward, and to thank you for your help. And we're looking forward to working with the CAC over the next couple of months. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on camera because everything really is in the presentation. So we'll move right into the presentation so you can get an idea of what is happening tonight. This is our agenda for tonight. We're going to talk about the Neighborhood Commercial District Planning Program. We'll go over the study area. We'll talk a little bit about what makes a great commercial district and sort of what we look for in a commercial district. We'll also go over our approach, how we plan to do it, the roles and responsibilities of all of us involved, and the schedule, so you'll know what to expect as we roll this out. And then we're going to go through and just give you some of our initial impressions. This is not going to be very deep. Much of this will be things that you probably have already seen, but it's sort of what we have seen starting out and give you an idea of some of the things that we think we might want to look at over the next couple of months or several months. And then we'll tell you about the next steps and how we can make this thing all work. Before we begin, we are recording. Let me make sure the recording is on. It should be on. Everyone should be on mute, and that's because we're really set up for chat rather than the audio. So you want to enter your comments and questions anytime in the chat window. This is a new technology, and it really is a new technology for us. This is our first actual Go webinar. And it's one of the reasons why we've kept it confined to the chat window, just because there's a lot of things for us to try to figure out what to do. And because it's a new technology for us and it's the first time we're using it, it's one of those rules that anything that could go wrong with technology probably will go wrong tonight. So we just wanted to try to keep it as simple as possible to get our message out and for you to be able to consume it. Okay. I don't know if you're anything like me, but if a new restaurant opens up in a place, I typically will go online to check it out. And then I also go right to the menu to find out what's on the menu, so that when the waiter or waitress asks me what I want for dinner, I'll already have a familiarity and already know what it is that I want to say to her or to him. And that's the same thing with this. We're going to ask you throughout this presentation, we're going to ask you 5 questions about the district. And I want you to think about those questions in advance so that you're not surprised and have to sort of scramble when the time comes. And you just put those in your chat window. For those of you who are on audio or are not able to respond, we'll have these questions up in a survey form in the next couple of days, and you'll be able to respond to them as well. But really, the 5 questions are very simple. The first is, what words describe your vision for the district? And that really is, when you think about the Main Street district and Main Street in the future, what key words come to mind when you think about it 20 years from now? The next question is, if you could just change one thing about the district, what would that be? What is that one thing that you think that if we could change, it would make the world of difference in the future of the district? The third question is, what is the one thing that we must not do? As planners and people that work for the city, we're always thinking that we have the answer, and we're doing things that we think is going to be of benefit for the community. And sometimes we find out that if we just stop doing something, that would be the one thing that would actually help a community. So we're going to ask that one question to you. Is there something that we should make sure that we don't do or we stop doing? And then we're going to dig a little deeper as we move through the night. We're going to ask you, give us what are the 3 issues that we must solve? And this is where it's really thinking a little bit about the problems that the district faces, if there are any. What are those 3 things that you think that if we solve would make a major change in the overall direction of the district or the future of the district? And then finally, we're going to ask you to put on your city planning hat and your big idea hat, and we're going to ask you, what is your big idea for the district? What is the one thing that you think could really, that is really bigger than, that you would like to see? Whether that's a big project, a big program, or something that you think would really be the signature implementation mechanism for this district. So I wanted to throw those out to you now so that you can think about them. And then when the time comes, you'll be able to put the information into the chat window. So the Neighborhood Commercial District Planning Program came about as a request by City Council several months ago. And really it was about to look at the smaller commercial districts in the city of Tampa. A lot of attention has been paid to downtown, the West Shore, to Ybor City, and some of these other larger commercial districts. But there are a lot of districts like the Main Street West Tampa district in the city of Tampa that could benefit by having a community-led program and planning program to really focus some resources and attention onto it. So it was really to look at those communities. So we wanted to develop an approach to look at the neighborhood commercial districts and involve the local community and stakeholders. That was really the big part about this, is not just to do a plan, but do a plan in concert with the local community. That would create a vision for the district and then identify specific actions to achieve the vision. So it wasn't just to talk about what the future could be, but to identify specifically how could the community get to that vision. And so that's the purpose of the neighborhood commercial district. This is a pilot program, by the way. We're doing 2 of these. We're doing one here in Main Street in West Tampa, and then we're also doing one in the Palmacia district in the Palmacia neighborhood. And so we're going to go through. We recognize, because this is a first-time effort, we're trying to figure out how to do it systematically. We might make a few mistakes, but we're going to be willing to learn from those mistakes and modify our approach and move forward. So this is our planning team. We put together team members from a variety of different agencies. There's the planning department where I'm from, the development and growth management department, which is our zoning and land development coordination, the city's mobility department. We have our legal department involved, the Hillsborough County City County Planning Commission, the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Art is part of our team. Then we also formed a unique partnership with the USF School of Architecture. What I'd like to do is just introduce to you a few of our team members, people that you'll see in the community over the next several months, so that you'll be able to connect the name to the face and the voice. First, I'd like to introduce Frank Hall, if he's able to pop up on the screen.
Hello, everyone.
Frank is going to be the project manager for our project, and he'll be able to lead you in this effort as we go through over the next several months. The next is Jay Collins. Jay, are you there?
I'm here. Good evening, everybody. Jay Collins with the Planning Commission staff. Staff's really excited to be able to work with the city of Tampa in the neighborhood. And with that, back to you, Randy.
And Jay, I have to really give a big appreciation to the Planning Commission. Many of you have probably worked with the Planning Commission over the years, and Jay has been around and in the community for several years. So we formed a real strong partnership with the Planning Commission, and I'm very excited to work with them in the next several months. We also are working with Jesus Nino, which I think many of you know, who's the manager of the West Tampa CRA. Jesus, are you online? He might still be muted somewhere. He's there somewhere. I know he is because I saw him earlier, but many of you, especially with the CAC, know Jesus. He's been a very key contact as we've been putting this together and maintaining the communication in the community, and that's a really important part of this process. Lastly, I want to introduce Taryn Sabia from the USF School of Architecture. Taryn, are you there?
I am. Thanks, everyone. It's great to be here this evening. I am a professor with the USF School of Architecture and director for the Florida Center for Community Design and Research. And we're excited to have a team of advanced graduate students from architecture and urban design partnering with the city on this really great program.
Yeah, we are. We're very happy to have the School of Architecture. We're going to talk a little bit more about what they're doing here in a couple of slides. That's part of our team. And you can see we have a number of people who aren't online and haven't been introduced that are working with us. And then, of course, each of our organizations have many people in the background that we're able to bring together if we need them to help support the project. Okay, so this is what we'll look at as part of the neighborhood planning effort. We're going to look at the existing and future land use. We'll look at the design of the street, the public realm, the sidewalks, the public spaces. We'll spend some time looking at the business composition. Is it the right composition? What do we have to do to make it different in the future? Obviously, multimodal improvements. What sort of things can help improve mobility? Crime prevention and public safety will also be looked at. And then urban design and architectural detail. What can we do to create the distinctive image for the West Tampa district? And we're going to look at much more. Really, if things that you feel are important to the district, we'll be able to find a mechanism to look at those to really try to bring them into the overall plan. The study area goes along from Main Street to Armenia to North Boulevard, and then along Howard Avenue up to about just north of Beach Street. It primarily focuses in on the commercial part of the district, or those properties that front the major arterial of Howard and Armenia. But we'll also spend some time looking at what's happening around the district. And what's around the district is mostly the residential areas. But what happens in the residential areas has a direct bearing on what evolves in the commercial district, and vice versa. It needs to be an area which grows together, so it strengthens the community, strengthens the district for the entire community. So let's talk about what we think makes a great district, and it's just really from the planning perspective. And these gives you an idea of some of the things or how we'll look at the district and how we approach the district. First of all, is something that we think about when we talk about the street. It's really rethinking the purpose of the street. And a lot of people think of a street as the number of cars that it can carry, and that's what they talk about when they say the capacity of the street is the number of cars per hour, the volume, and so forth. But we tend to look at a street in terms of all of the other things that it serves. It not only carries cars, it also carries bicycles, children going to school. It also is a doorway to schools, buildings, playgrounds, businesses. Everything that lines the street is part of that capacity. So some people might look at this, the capacity of the street as how many cars it will carry. We look at the capacity of the street to create vibrancy, to create a unique image, to bring people together. So we look at all of those things, not only what happens between the curb line, but what happens between the back end of the property lines. And there's a very specific way of looking at a street. And this is one of the things that we look at in terms of finding out what is a street being used for and how can it grow. It's streets have sidewalks, they have curb and gutters, they have parking, there's turn lanes, there's travel lanes, there's bike lanes, there's landscaping, and there's places for people to walk or outdoor cafes or shopping areas. So when we look at say Howard and Main Street, we'll look at the street and try to identify which of these zones exist today, because not every street, depending on how wide your street is, not every street will be able to accommodate all of these. Although every street has these zones, some of them are just zero. Not everybody, when you look at a left turn lane, when we look at the street, the width of that left turn lane is just really zero. It's not there. But if you were to widen the street, maybe that left turn lane could be there. So we're going to look at Howard and Armenia in terms of what functions are there today, given its width, and what new functions could be introduced in the future to support a growing district. But these are very specific things that we look at from a planning and engineering perspective. Another thing that makes a great district are the buildings and their contents. And you pretty much have to have both. You can have great buildings, but if the businesses in those buildings are failing, the district's going to suffer. Or you can have kind of marginal buildings, but if you have great businesses, the district is going to have some potential, but it may not reach its full potential. So we're going to look at all of the buildings in the district. We're going to determine and look at the businesses inside in terms of what markets are they reaching today? Who's, how vibrant are they? And then really, as we start looking into the future, as we start looking at projections for the area, what might the district be able to accommodate in the future, and where would those businesses go? And then finally, we're going to look at the people that really use the district, those that work, those that enjoy it, those that eat, those that live around it. It's the people that really drive everything that happens in the district, because if people weren't coming there, the businesses aren't going to flourish, and it doesn't really matter what it looks like. There's no one going to be able to enjoy it. This slide right now doesn't have any pictures of people in it because we're just starting, and we hope that over the next 2 months in our outreach with the community, that we'll be able to come back with dozens of images of people who are enjoying the district and are showing us how they can participate in the district for the future. But people are very important to the overall growth of any district. So our approach is to look at, is to pull information from a variety of different ways. We're not going to use just one way of gathering information. We'll have 3 of these types of meetings. This is the first one, and tonight is really about delivering the information to you about the program. The interaction will be from our 5 questions through the chat box, but tonight really is about us introducing the program to you and letting you know how you can participate over the next 2 months. So we'll have 3 meetings. One is tonight. We'll come back, we hope, just before Thanksgiving with another meeting to give you the results of our preliminary assessments. And then we hope to have one just before Christmas, around mid-December, to sort of solidify everything, and hopefully that we have that we're all in agreement of what is the strengths and the opportunities for the district and where we should go from here. We're going to have meet with several individuals in the community. We call them focus groups. These are going to be smaller groups, about 4 to 6 people, where we can spend about 45 minutes talking to individuals about anything about the district. You know, some are going to be property owners, where you're going to want to know what they plan to do with their property and where they see how they fit in the future. Some are going to be residents, so that we can understand what residents want out of the district. Others will be the business owners themselves. They can find out what is their concerns. So we're going to look at the schedule focus groups around a variety of different types of perspectives, so we can spend some time really trying to understand what's happening from the district and the people who are using it, doing business from all these different perspectives. We'll also use surveys from time to time. We had one that just was running for a couple of weeks that we closed. We'll be having some others as they as over the next couple of months on different topics. We'll use some social media, primarily Nextdoor. That seems to be the one that connects most of the residential areas and some of the businesses, so that will be our social media platform. And as Taryn mentioned, we're working with USF School of Architecture, and what they're going to be doing for us. They have a class of about 16 people, and about half of them are dedicated to Main Street to spend the next 12 weeks. They've already spent 3 weeks. So the next 9 weeks, they're continuing to really immerse themselves into the district. The whole class has been designed around this project for them. So they've been out learning about the district, they're inventorying the district, they're creating ideas, they're collecting information, they're going to be developing some design ideas. All of this part of their class, and they're going to be presenting their ideas in some of our meetings as we move forward. We're very happy to have USF involved. It's a dual type of relationship. We get to pick up the benefit of the students learning, and students are coming with some great ideas. They have no idea what the constraints are. I mean, they're not city employees or county employees. They're not in the profession, so they don't really know all of the rules and regulations that they might have to come up against. But that gives them a sense of freedom to be able to recommend ideas that maybe those of us who practice planning and design might not think of. So I think we're going to see some very creative ideas. And at the same time, it gives us at the city and the profession, I hope you and the community, an opportunity to mentor students in their profession, to be able to give them positive feedback, to help to let them know what you liked. If you don't like something, to do it in a constructive way so they can learn from it. So we think it's going to be a great relationship moving forward. Our staff and the Planning Commission staff will do a community analysis. It's the stuff that we do best. We have all the data. We can dig down deep to really look at the district from a variety of different ways. So we'll be producing the actual data that comes along with it. The Planning Commission is going to complete a economic analysis, sort of a market analysis. They're going to look at the district from a perspective of where is it at today, and where is the market today, and where do we think the market will take the district in the future, and let us know what businesses may be the best opportunity, and then if there are certain businesses that we want to strive for, what is it that we need to do to create the right market for those districts, for those businesses. And then finally, the staff discussion is when we, as the professional staff, take all of this information that we've put out here, all the information we get from the community meetings, from the focus groups, the surveys, the social media, what USF brings us, all of this information we bring together from the staff, and we try to do some of our problem solving, how we think everything might fit together, and then bring to you some alternatives as we move forward. As we move forward, your role in this process is hopefully to participate in meetings like this, continue to fill out our surveys. It was a great round of surveys. The first one went out, we had a lot of participation. If you're the type of person that likes to participate in social media, we hope that you'll participate there. We want you to send your ideas via email, continue to follow the project. If you're interested in doing a focus group and meet with us a little bit on a more personal one-on-one basis, let us know, and then we can get that set up. But really, to be give us your ideas throughout the process. Our schedule is going to be really 3 phases. From now until October, this is our kickoff meeting. From now in October, we're basically in a listening mode. This is the point where we're out into the public. We're listening to what you have to say. We're exploring, we're doing our site visits, we're looking at information that's coming in. The whole purpose of this is to make sure that, or to try to get us in a position that we can understand what's happening in the district, the issues, the opportunities, and where it might be going as much as all of you collectively. So we have about a 2.5 month listening phase. After the first of the year, we move into what we call our conceptual design and development phase. That's where we'll start developing the ideas. We take all the information we learn, and we'll have a variety of different alternatives. There'll also be some community meetings during that time frames where we bounce the ideas off of you, try to get your reaction or response if you think it's a great idea so we can move forward, or if it's something that we shouldn't waste our time on, then we know that we can put that one aside. And then phase 3, I should say that second phase will be about 3 months from January to March. And then phase 3 is the refinement and the publication. And this really is where we start putting together the actual implementation part of it. What are the key steps? If it's a capital project, what might it cost, and how do you move it to the next level? If it's some sort of program that has to be put in place, what are the steps in creating that program, and sort of some general ballpark funding for something like that. But we'll put all of that together in that refinement stage, and then the publication part of it, where we bring back to you and say, here is the plan, and hopefully we've hit the mark, and we can celebrate in May that we put together a plan that is going to achieve the vision that all of you have stated. So let me bring forward just some initial impressions. And this is where we're going to start asking for your feedback into the chat box. So, and really a lot of these are sort of impressions of just a few of us. Many of them are impressions that I've wandered around and picked up over the last several weeks. But before we get started, this is that first question. When you think about the district and the future of the district, what words describe the vision that you have for the district? And these can be single words, short phrases, but go ahead and we'll spend a little bit of time as you put them in the chat box. And hopefully our chat box is working. So I'm not seeing chat responses. Is that that means it's not working? Okay, it's happening in the questions. I see them now. All right. Okay, keep them coming. We'll give about another 30 seconds. I'm seeing vibrant from community driven, historic. I see safe, vibrant, and walkable. Family-oriented, community, inclusive. Feel free to keep going. Add any more that you as we go along. I'm going to continue as we move into this next into more slides. Okay, so here's some of our initial impressions as we look through the district. This is Main Street, right at just west of North Boulevard. On the right side of the screen, that's the vacant lot where the West River project is. On the left is the retention pond from the FDOT. And this picture here could be in just some sort of rural area of any community. I mean, it's very, at this point in time, it's very, there isn't any development, so there isn't really much happening in this area, and it has this sort of rural character. Now we know that's going to change as development on the right side changes. On the left side, we're still going to have this open field of the retention pond. As we move closer towards Howard Avenue, we start seeing the new development of West River starting to emerge. Still has a very open feel, especially on the left side. We get past Rome Avenue, we start seeing the character change a little bit into this single-story residential and commercial mix until we start getting closer to Albany. We start seeing the beginnings, really the beginnings of the commercial district starting to emerge. And then we get into the center of Main and Howard, and the sort of the major cornerstones of the commercial district. When we look down Howard, this is a very interesting look down Howard, primarily because what we see is the line of buildings that bring this, that form this line, these three-story buildings that have this sort of consistent feel. And for planners, we look for something like that. We look for order in design, things that create enclosure. So the idea is the future to continue this trend on both sides to create this sort of three-story building structure envelope on each side of the on each side of the road. This street is probably, this street can tell us so much about the district. and I could probably do the entire presentation just on this image alone. Because when you look at this image, first of all, you notice the street is wide. It's got room for parking as well as the street. The sidewalks are wider than most city sidewalks in the city. So there's quite a bit of room already on the sidewalks. Obviously, the buildings, many of the buildings have this historic feel to it. So there's a sense of history that's there. And it looks like there's quite a bit of potential that could be done, just a little rundown. At the same time, when you look, you do see, especially on the right side of the street, no trees. There's no shade trees. There's no trees at all, except for one that's over in that little open area. On the left side, you see a couple of trees that are some bushes and trees. There's no street lighting. You have pedestrian lighting. You have the large street lighting, but no pedestrian lighting. And then the buildings are run down. Some of the buildings are run down. Some are vacant. You have vacant lots. So in this one picture, what we see is a district that is both has potential for redevelopment, that is sort of been neglected over a number of years, and it's got a lot of signs of wear and tear on it. And really, when we think about this 20 years from now, the questions start to emerge: what will this street look like 20 years from now? Is it going to continue to be this 1 to 2 story type of structure? Will there still be vacant buildings? What will fill in on these spaces? Will there be buildings that look like this? Will they be somewhat modern? Will the people be living in these buildings, or will they just be major businesses? Where will people park to serve these businesses? How will the street look? Will it look exactly like this? Will there be parking? Will there be bike lanes? Will there be places for people to sit? These are all the questions that we'll be asking over the next couple of months of the future of Main Street. What should this street really look like in 20 years? And what is its level of vibrancy supposed to be? So here's our second question. If there's only one thing that you could change about the district, what would that be? Go ahead and type it into the chat box. What is that one thing that you feel has to change for the district to reach its potential? We're getting quite a bit of response. I see improve the safety. Create identity, some of the crime and drugs. Somebody put a question in. If you're having trouble, the chat box may not be working for you, but I think there's a question box that you can use in its place. Clean up the crime and the loitering. Should be more lively. Some of the things that we're seeing. Go ahead, keep adding those comments in. Those are great comments, things that we'll be able to use. Now the district, and I think all of you know, if you spend any time in West Tampa, you know there's quite a bit of historic and architectural detail in the buildings. And that's something that isn't really available other than Ybor City. We don't see this in much of Tampa. In fact, I would wager that this is the last remaining historic and architectural district that has the capability of redevelop. All of them have already had some level of redevelopment, but this one is really, I think, one of the last in the city with this kind of heritage and this kind of architecture and history, which makes it all the more important that we really dig deep to make sure we're doing something that's going to be a benefit for the entire district. So a lot of buildings to build on. Even the street has pieces of history embedded into it. And it comes to mind not only the street. I mentioned earlier that one of the key inputs in this whole process are the people that are involved in this community. And I know that and I've met people in this community that still remember Main Street in West Tampa when it was vibrant and was exciting, and it did offer a variety of opportunities for people to go. And so I think one of our challenges is that how can we take their link to that history and make sure it's part of the future of this district? Because in 20 years from now, many of those people will no longer be here, and that history is going to be gone. So I think there's an opportunity to take the personal experiences that people have in this district and somehow bring that into the future redesign, redevelopment, or whatever. We don't know what that is yet. We don't know how that can happen, but it's something I think that we can try to work with many of you and trying to make that happen. There are a lot of different businesses in the district. There may be quite a few vacancies and vacant buildings, but there's still new businesses that are coming in and new investments. There's restaurants, there's some services, there's a variety of different daily services for the district. So we want to be able to look at these businesses and look at strategies to support the businesses, and then also find the roadmap to bring new businesses into the area and to help sort of develop that, remove the barriers so new businesses can locate into the district. And then obviously we want to look at the causes of the vacant buildings, the vacant lots in the area, and really what can be done to encourage the redevelopment of these blocks and these buildings, because that's really where the future is. It's in the areas that are vacant, in the areas that need some repair and reinvestment, that can really create major change in the district. There's not only buildings that are vacant that are in disrepair, but there are also some buildings that are just vacant and that probably need some sort of attention. But we need to work with those property owners, the realtors in the area, to find out what could be the avenue to help support the business development in the area. There are quite a bit of chain link fences in the district, more than what we would see in other areas. We understand that for security purposes, today you need chain link fences in the district. But at the same time, when we start looking in the future, we would like to see businesses, buildings replacing some of these chain link fences, or being able to get into a position that there's a different type of barrier, or something that's more attractive and is more visually appealing for the district. But we understand that today that there's a situation that may demand chain link fences, but we also want to see in the future ways that we can improve the visual appearance of the district. Our third question, we talked about the things that we want to do for our vision. What do we need to stop doing in the district, or something that we should not do? This is not an easy question, because we're always geared to identify a situation. We say we need to fix that. But the question is there something that is sort of that we're just, the city or somebody is doing, that we need to stop doing? And it could be a program, it could be a project, it could be an attitude, it could be something that we're thinking about, or a way we're doing business. But if you have something that you think that we need to stop doing something, and it would be great if there's no ideas, that's still good, because we know that we can move forward without worrying about that. But I do see some ideas popping up. Maintain the consistent architecture, so we don't want to see anything that's going to be in conflict. Include everybody. Something to do about permits, making sure the permits get done. Don't tear down the historical fabric, and find a way to save our historical features. Those are good, keep them up. The streets in the area, I mentioned the streets are, in some areas, both on Howard and Armenia, the streets are wider than what we typically see in Tampa. This is part of our USF contingent out a couple of weeks ago doing their walking audit of the district. So you can see that the streets can accommodate a number of people. You can also see just from this picture that it's sort of a mishmash of a street. I mean, these should be shade trees. There's no shade trees. These are no shade trees at all. You've got this tree that's in the foreground, and then you've got palms in the background. Not a consistent look, and obviously no shade in a theme. And the actual look just is a very simple look that's carried over for a number of years. Same thing along this street. You know, the sidewalk could be a nice sidewalk to walk down. The arcade is nice. You have at least a street light, you know, a pedestrian street light. But again, the trees, they could be except for the palm, the other trees could be the same, but they almost look like three different trees: the palm, the tree right after it, and then the others. And again, they're not shade trees. They don't really provide the amenity that we would think about on a street like this. Although the sidewalk is wider than in most cases, it may not be wide enough to accommodate any kind of street life. And what I mean by that is sidewalk cafes. Might be a couple, but you wouldn't be able to have anything of great size. Here's another image of the street, again, just showing how much the street really needs in terms of a visual improvement to really create a look for the street. And then we have these situations. We have planners that are they don't even carry plannings anymore, which shows that there's a level of maintenance and a level of attention which isn't being provided in the district. The planners along Howard Avenue, as you see in the bottom left, not only are they not used, I'm not even sure they serve a useful function anymore. This is an old design which really ought to be removed and really rethought for something that's much more in line for the future of the district. Then, of course, on the right, we have standing water, which is indicative of some of the stormwater issues. And I know there's been improvements over the year, and the district has adapted. We just know that there are certain areas where the water just does not drain as well as in other areas. So these are all things that we need to look at and consider what can we change in the future. If the stormwater is going to be an issue in certain areas, we need to know how can we design around that or design with that to help the district grow. I mentioned this a couple of times, the presence of vacant lots. The vacant lot, when we first see the vacant lot, there's the visual look of the vacant lot. It creates a big hole in the streetscape, but vacant lots also provide the opportunity for something new to occur. And it's really trying to figure out, when we look at all the vacant lots, what should be happening on the street, and how can we encourage that to happen on the street? That's always the second part, is what we would like to see, and then how can we encourage that to happen? And there's a lot of things that we have to consider. Not only is it the building, the business, the placement of the business, it's the parking, it's the relationship of the street to the business, and so forth. So those are things that we'll look at as we look at these areas of opportunity. The district doesn't always look like this, but it looked like this today. I was there, and so we do need to look at how can we make sure that the district is cleanly all the time. This was probably just a bad day, but it's just making sure that we look at the district on an ongoing basis to see if there's an issue of cleanliness and appearance, and then look at how can we create the right response to that. Okay, this is really where you get into the nuts and bolts. This is sort of where we try to see what are the real issues that we want to solve. And this can be very specific, if it's a very specific thing that you think we need to tackle, or it can be a very broad programmatic area. But we want to get an idea, what do you think are the three key issues? By the time we're done with this plan, what do you hope that we've really addressed that said, okay, we heard you and we solved those three problems? Let's see. Okay, we're getting some responses. I see the drugs, crime, solve that, litter, crime, food. Drug safety, desirable place for businesses, creating more jobs. There's a lack of businesses, creating more businesses, parking, very good. These are all the things that we're going to look at as we start going through the next several months. What I thought was very impressed with is that the district has some very nice parks and open spaces. You have Ray Park here, right on Howard Avenue. There's the privately provided park, and as we move through, we're going to want to know how this park resonates with the community as a public space and how you use it. And then, of course, you have Celsinas Park, the public plaza right in the center of the district, which is, as we all know, it's active on a variety of different days. People are there throughout the day using the space. This really, right, from a city planning perspective and in my history of city planning, this reminds me of the old villages that were designed with the public square right in the center. So it was designed so people could meet and congregate and share ideas at that time. And so this is really sort of harkens back to that kind of design of the public space in the center of the district that serves the entire district. And it really is a valuable asset that we want to build upon and get your ideas on how can we strengthen it, how can we make it more active, what is the role of this space in the overall district. You have a lot of alleys, and we think as planners, we think these are assets. I don't know how all of the residents feel about it, but we see opportunities when we see alleys like this. These are clean and they're well kept. We understand that alleys, this is only a block off the main streets, that alleys may not be clean and well kept all the way through the district. We see opportunities for redevelopment. We also know that there's places along the alleys where they're unkept, where there can be places for litter and maybe some illegal activity. All of those things can happen. Our hope over the next few months is to look how these alleys can be made safe, how they can be made accessible, and how they can be turned into assets to support community life as well as the business life. We don't have ideas yet. I know some of the students at USF had some ideas. So we'll be looking at that and working with you on how we can turn alleys into assets. The residential areas around the district are a variety of different types. They seem to be, at least from we saw, fairly stable. We saw a lot of different homes on the streets right around the district. You get away, there are some vacant areas, maybe a couple of houses that are in disrepair, but in generally, the neighborhood looks fairly stable. There might be some areas where there's some areas that we have to take a look at. We have the single family bungalow style. There's some two-story buildings, some buildings that were invested within the last 15 years. And of course, when we get down near North Boulevard, we have the redevelopment of West River at a different scale. So we have all these different types of residential opportunities. We want to look at how's the residential neighborhood going to grow in the future, and how does that influence the growth of the district, and how does the district influence the stability and the evolution of the neighborhood. Main Street itself, and that first image I showed from North Boulevard to the district, is about a mile long. So one of our challenges is going to be how can we create a walkable environment that allows the residents that live closer to the Howard Avenue Main Street district to entice them to walk all the way to the river and be and back and forth, so that Main Street can become this real true connector that we've been talking about that it could be. We want to make sure that this can be a connector in the future, especially as West River continues to redevelop and the number of people that are going to live there. We want to be able to create this strong connection back to the commercial core. So our final question, and this is where you get to play the visionary or the city planner for yourself. And that is, what is your big idea for the Main Street neighborhood commercial district? And that is, and it doesn't matter what it is, if you just think that there's one huge idea that you want to explore, we'll pull that together and see how it might fit in. And I don't want to give anybody any ideas, but I want you to sort of think about anything that you think would be that catalyst idea that would really, first of all, make you happy that you contributed to the project, but also make you feel that it is something that others will want to support in the neighborhood and really be an asset for the community moving forward. So, in summary, I think our initial impressions are of a district that has, lack of a better word, has been neglected over the number of years. I mean, it has some 2 great streets, it has some great buildings, it has some new investment, it has a strong community behind it. But when you look at the district, it's as if it's over the last many years, it's just sort of been, I don't want to say tossed aside, but left aside by other areas in the city maybe given the attention. So there's an opportunity just through some new investment, some new design, some new attention that the district could find its path back to becoming a very strong commercial district. So we think that that's one of the real major themes that we can build upon, is build upon what's existing, what's there now, and really try to create some new opportunities for some new growth and redevelopment in the future. So our next steps are, we're going to continue to receive public comment through December. You can email this email address, tampaplanning@tampagov.net, with any ideas, any suggestions, so forth. We'll continue to provide additional surveys on the city's webpage. We're going to start doing our community analysis in our focus group meetings. If you want to participate in a focus group meeting or just want to have a short conversation with us, you can email us at that tampaplanning@tampagov.net. We'll be coming back in November with a community meeting. It's either going to be a virtual meeting or it's going to be a live meeting, depending on where we're at with our rules of engagement, we call it. But we're going to use that meeting to provide some preliminary findings, and receive some feedback. We also hope to be able to provide more of a audio interchange at that meeting. Again, tonight was because we just really are not that familiar with how this whole system works. And then in December, we'll be coming back to present the issues and opportunities that will form the basis of the actual plan development. I hope this webinar gave you an overview of the neighborhood planning program, outline some of the ways that you'll be able to be involved over the next couple of months and what we'll be looking at, and then it's giving you sort of an idea of how we're going to run the project. And I apologize, we're not able to make it as interactive as we would like. We're trying to respond to the pandemic the best way we can and using the tools. And this again was the first time use for us, so it's going to take us a little while to figure it out. So thank you all very much for joining us, and this concludes our webinar for the evening.